Well, if you've been with us for the prior weeks this month, you'll know that we've talked about being grateful for what we have. And that's what most people focus on when they think of Thanksgiving and they think of gratitude. But we went on to say we are grateful for what I am. I am an expression of the divine. The divine lives within me. And I'm grateful for that because all of those attributes that we think of as being exclusively the purview of the divine, they're available to us as well. Today, I want to move on to being grateful for what I give. And Donna, that sharing that you gave is very appropriate to this topic. When we're in church, we often think about giving as when we put something in the offering basket. We talk about tithing, and ran into I don't often tell jokes, but I'm going to try. Laugh with me anyway, will you, if I don't do it very good? The story goes that two men were marooned on an island. And the two of them are there, and one of them is fretful, pacing up and down, and pacing, and the other is just relaxing in the sun. Well, the one who's pacing up and down said, "How can you do this? We're marooned. We don't even know if we'll live. No one will find us." Well, the man who was basking in the sun said, "Oh, I don't see it that way." He says, "I make $100,000 every week, and I tithe to my church every week. The pastor will find me." Okay, that's an aside. I had to try out my joke on you. I want some raised hands, and you can even raise them virtually or put them up if you're with us online. How many of you are familiar with Mansa Musa? I see one. We've got one, Mansa Musa. Well, let me tell you about Mansa Musa. Mansa Musa was the emperor of the Empire of Mali. If he had been in our day, he would be in Forbes magazine because his wealth was estimated to be about $400 billion. The Mali includes Guinea, Senegal, Gambia, and currently the country of Mali. And he had great wealth. It came from the salt trade. Salt was a big, important item. And also from gold mining. And he just had warehouses full of gold. He was a good Muslim. And he knew that he wanted, while he could, to make a Hajj to Mecca, to go on that trip to Mecca as an evidence of his Muslim faith. And so he did, but he did it in a little different style than most people. The pilgrims who went to Mecca, he had a retinue of about 60,000 people that went with him. 12,000 of them carried bars of gold that weighed 4 pounds or more. I like to call that his wallet. He took a big wallet when he went to Mecca. But the journey was more than 1,000 miles, and so he passed through many countries. And this fabulously wealthy emperor was also fabulously generous. And to each that he met, he often would give gold. In fact, he gave so much gold in Egypt that it devalued the price of gold, an unexpected thing. But for ordinary people, they were blessed by that giving. He passed through nations that were struggling, and he loaned them money Actually, he never asked for payment at all. He essentially gave them money. He didn't have any expectation at all to accompany his giving. At one point, he even got to the point where he had exhausted that, and I figured about $1.2 billion in his wallet. I did a little calculation. That 1.2 got exhausted because he had given it all away. And so he borrowed. But the interesting thing was, he always seemed to have more. He always seemed to have enough. And that wealth that he had was replenished again and again. So there you go. Mansa stands for king. Mansa Musa. Now you know Mansa Musa. You learned something today. Not my job to be a teacher, but I love to find things like this that illustrate the truth that I'm sharing with you. And here's a key spiritual truth. And I put it in the form of an affirmation. I give without expectation. It blesses everyone, and I am grateful. Let me say that again. I give without expectation. It blesses everyone, and I am grateful. So we get into the idea of what is giving, and I'm going to call it pure giving, because we know lots of times when people have given with some really crazy motivations, and that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about that pure giving, that giving without expectation, without manipulation, but also without obligation. Pure giving for the joy of giving in and of itself. So this pure giving goes without needful recognition. The pure giving doesn't say, well, let me give you this anonymous gift, but make sure that so-and-so knows that I gave it. No, that's not the pure giving we're talking about. It's the giving where, as the old phrase goes, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. It's just giving. Giving from a heart full, from a faith that says, all that I have, all that I need comes from divine source, and I will always have it. Matter of fact, when I get onto that cycle of giving, it's a law that will be replenished. I get into that cycle, I give, I receive. I give, I receive. And that's not the motivation either, but it's just the law. The law. It's giving, this kind of giving, that is not intended to benefit you. Not for your benefit, but it does. This is not being nice, and thanks to Rick and Donna, who both pointed me to the same little article about the difference between nice and kind. You know, we're kind of wrapped up in this kindness project here. And nice will be with expectations, probably. But kind is just for its own sake. And so when we give, if we want to get tapped into that pure divine giving, we do it without expectation. It's also not self-sacrificing. We think of so those of you who haven't known about it, Saturday Soul Boost, 4 o'clock Saturday afternoon, virtually online. And I've taken to sharing cartoons. And I like it. I like looking up cartoons and it was about giving yesterday. And one of them was a man who was bridging the gap from cliff to cliff. He had his feet on one side and his hands on the other side, and other people were walking right over his back to safety. But that's not the kind of pure giving I'm talking about. It's not a sacrifice of self. It's a sharing of self. Remember this book. Whoop, I'm going to show it to you. Yeah, hopefully you can see it online as well. Anybody familiar with 7 spiritual laws of success? I see some more hands going up. Deepak Chopra has a wonderful context for this pure giving. It's something that, though it's not intended to benefit, by law, and he makes this the 2nd spiritual law of success. It benefits us. It just puts us in the flow of the energy of the universe. And let me just read a short paragraph. Every relationship, says Chopra, is one of give and take. Giving engenders receiving, and receiving engenders giving. What goes up must come down. What goes out must come back. In reality, receiving is the same thing as giving, because giving and receiving are different aspects of the flow of energy in the universe. And if you stop the flow of either, you interfere with nature's intelligence. So when we're looking at this pure giving, we've gotten ourselves on the track of the flow of the universe. Lao Tzu said it really briefly. You cannot receive what you don't give. Outflow determines inflow. And we say it every week when we are just before our offering, when we give our gifts. Freely we give and freely we receive. That's the setting for pure giving. So, why should we engage in this pure giving? Why should we give without expectation? We know that it works, but let's talk a little bit about why. So often we get, probably our codependent selves, many of us have a little, we're inclined to be there, should I say, from time to time. Hopefully we're all learning. But so often we get involved in something that's really not ours to do. When we get involved in something that's not ours to do, it's not that pure giving. It's giving because we feel obligated. It's giving because we feel like we'll look good in somebody else's eyes. It's giving because we think we'll look good in our own eyes. And we'll just do and do and do and even burn ourselves out because we haven't taken time to check. Is this mine to do? I'm going to give you an idea or two about how to work with that at the end here. But I think there are 3 key things that come to us as a result of engaging in this pure giving. The first one, purpose. When we give without expectation, we tap into a universal purpose. Expresses in different ways in each of us, but we tap into that purpose. That purpose of our oneness, of our sharing, of our togetherness. So we tap into that purpose. I was thinking of an example of this, and I don't often do this, but I want to refer to my upbringing and my father. My father was a Baptist minister, very conservative, and my theology and his are kind of worlds apart at this point. But he was not a wonderful orator. He was not a great teacher. He wasn't charismatic. But he was a pastor. He served without any particular expectation. There was a sense of purpose in him to go. We grew up in mostly rural communities. There was a sense of purpose for him that going out and baling hay all day long, or cutting wood, or helping somebody build something was a purpose that was his. And I honor him for that. And the same is true for all of us. When we can tap into that giving without expectation in our own unique way, we will know more fully our purpose. Next, there's joy. Have you ever just been pushed, urged, prompted to give, and the result of that for you was great joy? It's happened for me. It's happened here in Payson for me. I want it to happen a lot more, but many of you know that I got involved with the starting of the warming center here in Payson. And in that first year, when during the cold winter, we were able to shelter 24 people every night, I had the opportunity to be one of those people who was kind of there to keep things all together. I was a volunteer to make it happen, to meet people's needs. That gave me such a feeling of joy, not of the ecstatic throwing my arms up in the air, but just an inner joy that I hope expressed in my life in other ways. Yes, purpose, yes, joy. And then, of course, blessing. I like to think that blessing goes with the word that Joseph Campbell used a lot, bliss. I think it's blissing as well. Blessing and blissing, getting ourselves in that place where we can freely give, where we can express our purpose, when we can live our joy and be, without question, happy. A lot of us are not always happy. That blessing that comes from the pure giving, that's going to contribute to our happiness. The Christian Scriptures has an account that goes pretty much like this. With this kind of work, and I don't know what kind of work exactly was being referred to, it doesn't say, we help the weak. Remembering the words that Jesus himself said, it is more blessed to give than to receive. And I think that those words are relating to that pure giving that we have the opportunity to engage in. So we talked about pure giving, why it's important. Now I get to the end of how do I do that? How do I get to that place where I can give without expectation? Well, as with everything, awareness is the start of it. When we're aware of, say, for example, what our motivation is in giving when we are engaged in some sort of giving, when we're aware that the act that we do or the gift that we give of our presence and of ourself is that spiritually enlivening. I have a friend who's a unity minister who is very big on tithing. And he tithes himself and from his church to the Unity Southwest region and the Unity organization because he feels like that's something that he can give without expecting anything particular to come back. So that giving where we're spiritually enlivened is a key that might help you get to where you want to go. How you do that. And then, are you sensing the urge to give? Not just up here, you're figuring, oh, this would be a good place to give to. Oh, I have all of these requests. People want me to give money. Which of them should I choose? But more, how about coming from within? What am I urged to give? What am I called to give? That's all part of awareness. Now, some really practical things. How do I do that? How do I engage in the pure giving? I'm going to give you 3, and you probably could add many more. 1, this doesn't have anything to do with money. Listen. Just listen. How great a need so many of our friends and neighbors and acquaintances have for someone to listen. Not formulating a response, not looking for a story that we can tell that matches the story that they have or maybe betters it a little bit, but listening. If you would engage in that pure giving and be blessed by it and be able to be grateful for it, listen, just listen. Next, forget. Well, I forget a lot of things these days, but I want to intentionally forget. Forget that I gave something. I'm urged to give the homeless person on the street corner $5, not knowing whether it's a scam or not, but I'm just urged to do it. And so I do it, and I look to forget it. Because the more I remember it, the more I'm kind of trying to pump myself up, trying to see how it benefited me or how good I was. Give and forget. Just forget. And finally, just say no. Wasn't that a slogan for somebody? Just say no. Often we give to someone when we say no. We don't think we are. It's just so easy to say yes. I'm going to fix it for them. I'm going to take care of that situation. But listening to Spirit within, knowing what the urge is, knowing what the call is, may lead us to say no. We don't know why that no will be giving to the person we're saying no to. We so often have a small picture and we don't see the big one. But 3 things: just listen, forget, and say no. I think that if you, for me it seems to work. And if you can grab a hold of those things, you'll get into a giving that you can be truly grateful for. The title, as we said, again, is Grateful for What We Give. As we've said, giving engenders receiving. So the whole makeup of the universe is going to be ours. And like Mansa Musa, that's a funny name. Almost didn't remember it. Told you I was forgetting. Mansa Musa gave without expectation of return. But that law of giving and receiving did not make him someone who lost something in that giving, but someone who was enlivened and enriched by that. Our key spiritual truth, one more time. And this is the affirmation. Make your own affirmation, perhaps similar to this. I give without expectation. It blesses everyone, including me, and I am grateful. And so it is.